Well, hello. How goes it? It's been a while again, but I've been busy again. Welcome to the Algarve. Just how stunning is that view down onto the sea? Oh man, it's been busy and tough and lots going on. But the one joy you can always depend upon is a motorbike. So, as I hinted at in my last video, I sold the 2015 I had to a really cool guy from Lisbon who's now become a friend. Miro, if you're watching, good to see what you've done with the bike, my dude. But this one I've been kind of busy with. So I bought the 22 Super Adventure S and then did a few bits to it, as you can see. One thing I haven't done yet, but which is on the way, they were delayed until the start of March, it's now the end of January, are the wire wheels with MotoMaster flame discs and pads. And I decided to get everything else on there, like the ABS sensor, the TPMS, the 90-degree valves and all the rest of it, so they're just bolt on and bolt off. So they're coming, which are going to kind of complete the thing for now. But I also put the shortened screen on, as you might see, with a little wind visor too. The Touratech style headlight cover, Outback Mototech upper crush bars, lower crush bars, and the skid plate. And a big shout out to Cassie and Alex at Outback Mototech for helping me get stuff together and get it fitted. I've also done a few bits like the Denali D3s. They're pretty cool. What I liked about those was you got the fog light. The hybrid has got the fog light to throw light right in front of you, and they got really lengthy beams on them too. So you get the best of both, really. So I put those on with a Denali B6 brake light, which gives you a DRL and then gives you really bright brake light as well. It's also got some fancy kind of gadgetry on there as well. I've connected all of this and the Soundbar mini horn to the Hex EasyCan, and you can then do some funky stuff. So I've got the lights, D3 lights, running at 40% during the day on low beam, and at night on low beam, and then during the day and at night time on full beam they'll go to 100% and light up with the light of multiple suns. On the back, on the B6, that's pretty cool because it will allow you under heavy braking to modulate, to flash the light and let people know what's going on. And anything you can do to make it more visible is good, obviously. I put the Arrow Sonora exhaust on. I like the look of the Acura. I've had Acura on multiple cars and bikes over the years, not least the titanium Acura I had on my S5, Audi S5 V8, which I just was valved and I just loved it. The noise of it was incredible. What I didn't like with the Acura for this was it's not very easy to remove the baffle because it's Euro 5 compliant. This is also Euro 5 compliant, but you can't take the baffle out for racetrack use, obviously. Last but not least, I put the Comfort higher seat, rider seat on. Obviously put the taxi driver beads on from Bead Rider. I've had those on every bike for as many years now as I can remember, and they are just phenomenal. In the heat, in the wet, whatever it is, to keep your bum comfy, dry, aerated, it's pretty good. Need I say more? I also put the Touratech GPS mount, the locking mount, and the Zumo XT. I did all of this wiring myself, including the lights on the horn and the rear lights, which meant taking every panel off, finding the routing, which actually, in fairness, I'm not good at this kind of stuff. It was actually relatively easy. Then I had to put it all back together again. Then I had to put the graphics kit on. First time doing that from Moto Pro Works. But that's now done. And it has worked out really nicely. Then I put the bars on. Then I put the horn on. Then I put the lights on once I knew how everything kind of bolted back together, and then I put the SW Motec pannier racks and top case. I kept the cases off my old bike, so they've gone on. I'm thinking about the soft luggage, just for the sake of it, but we'll see. But other than that, compared to the 2015, it's pretty new and shiny. The TFT screen is phenomenal, and having the XT wired and mounted up there, so having this kind of double screen setup, pretty cool, I have to say. Also, you might notice a GoPro over there and a GoPro here. I tried to do a couple of videos with the Drift Ghost S that I had. They weren't working out very well. 1080p sound wasn't great, so we'll test this one out and see what's going on. But today, just taking a run from Tavira up to Cashupo, up in the hills, and then I think I might take a run over towards the border, towards Spain possibly. But these roads are phenomenal. And the good thing with this dual setup is you can see me in there now. Never done that before. But I figured if I want to continue making some diary type videos, which I do, gets me away from the desk, gets me out of the house, I thought I might as well put a couple of good cameras on. So let's go for a spin. So I put a new microphone on here with a dead cat as well, so hopefully it's going to be decent sound, take some of that wind noise away. But these roads up here, it's a little bit breezy today, it's a little bit cool. End of January, it's gone down to 12 degrees up here. It was 14 down by the coast. But still it's quite nice and warm in the sun, which is pretty good. But these roads, if you're any sort of a biker or driver, are just phenomenal. They are food for the soul, I have to say. Depending on which part of this run you're on, you'll get to see some nice hills and a few rivers if they've got water. But coming back out of the hills and seeing that, probably one of my favourite views in the world, I have to say. Just coming down onto that Algarve coast is like no other, really. The only thing I'll say about these roads, if you ever do come to visit and go for a drive, particularly on right-hand bends for us, you'll notice cars coming around on our side of the road. So on all of these bends, stay wide and away from the centre of the road. Whether we are going left or right. The advanced riding techniques tells you on a left-hand bend here, you should be on the right-hand side of the road, and on a right-hand bend, you should be on the left-hand side of your lane. But safety comes first. Sometimes you've got to give up position for safety. But this kind of bend here, what you'll find is drivers coming the other way will literally just cut across this to try and shorten the bend a little bit. And it's horrendous because they'll come around blind bends and you just have no chance of seeing them. So what I've found is best position is kind of stay centered if you can. Be able to stop at the distance that you can see to be clear. It's a very sensible police rider once told me in the UK. Yeah, these ones you really got to watch out for. You have no idea what's going to come around that bend at you. And one thing I will say, even with all the training and what have you that I've done over the years, and Steve, you're watching, you'll know this because you went on and did your IAM. And I think you also went on to be an observer, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me. Even with all that training, I think the good thing with it is it keeps you humble. So I know that I've not been riding anywhere near enough to keep my skill levels up. So I am all about the slow and sensible, methodical, kind of bedding in the process again of learning how to ride the bike properly. And definitely more on the cautious side than anything else these days. Because if there's anything that I have learned, is that these machines will bite and bite hard if you're not concentrating. So next week it's actually coming up to 4 years since I had the motorcycle accident down here. I don't know where the time has gone, but it's 6 years since, almost 6 years since we moved down here. And it's almost 4 years since I had that off the bike. And it was pretty rough, I have to say. I think I shared pictures before of the break in my leg and the bars and pins that went in. But I've still got a bar in my left leg from like under my knee, down my shin. I've got 8 screws in there, quite lengthy ones. And the majority of those are kind of up the top under my knee, trying to reconstruct it. But what happened was I was riding off-road up in the hills, and we'd been practicing for an off-road rally here, which was coming up a few weeks later. And we'd been blasting across the hills and across rivers and just having such good fun. It was really good. Felt really good on the bike. All the kit was good. Just absolutely loved it. And we kind of got towards the end of our riding session. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd been out all morning across the hills, and we were riding up a kind of twisty mountain road, and one of these was a switchback. So I was standing up on the pegs, nice and slow, looking up the hill, and whatever happened, I literally have no idea what happened. I mean, I've thought about it so many times. I think I may have lost concentration, but my left foot slipped off the peg and started heading for the ground. I grabbed a handful of throttle, as you kind of naturally do, trying to hold on. Instantly realised what was happening, so the front wheel started to lift. So, like you do at all times off-road, if you ride off-road, you're going to drop a bike. There's no two ways about it. You're going to drop the bike off-road. And I had done many times before. You're going to jump off and let it do its thing, pick it up, dust yourself off, dust the bike off, and off you go. But this time, the front wheel started to come up. I couldn't get to the clutch, so my left foot slipped, and I started to kind of fall backwards. The bike was going up and to the right. I couldn't get to the clutch, so I just let go with both hands. But unfortunately, my foot stuck on the ground, and my left foot stuck into the ground, and the momentum of the bike was dragging me to the right, and my knee just kind of snapped outwards. All I heard was a click. I kind of instantly knew that's not good. And I tumbled onto the ground. The bike kind of took off and ploughed into a tree and all the rest of it. And I kind of rolled over in the dust, and I tried to pull my leg back in to stand up, and I couldn't. I literally couldn't. It was that instant moment of shock, adrenaline. There was no real pain, I have to say. When I tried to move my leg afterwards, I could feel a little bit of pain, but it was bizarre. It was like it wasn't part of me. It was kind of detached. So then, obviously, I had a really big scare that I'd broken the bone so badly that it had kind of pierced the skin, really. So the guy I was with, he came running back, asked him to check my leg. No blood, thankfully. But then I ended up lying there in that position for a good couple of hours. No, actually, I tell a lie, it wasn't about 2. It was actually about 12:30 in the day, because I was lying there until 2:30. So there was 2 hours that I was lying there. At which point, the bomberos, or kind of volunteer firefighters, absolutely awesome crew, came up the mountain in their 4x4. They managed to split my leg and get me into the back of the truck, who got me then down to town, where I was met by the police and an ambulance. police just wanted to breathalyze me. And that was such a weird thing. They were asking me, was I drinking? Had I had something to drink? I was like, no, I haven't. I could really do with some water, please. And they're like, no, have you had something to drink today? I was like, oh, I had some orange juice and water and a cup of tea this morning. Like, no, alcohol. I was like, oh no, I don't drink. I mean, I'd already kind of given up alcohol a few years before, so it was just such out of left field, and my brain obviously wasn't in it. So these poor cops trying to ask me was I drunk, and I just didn't have a clue. They ended up breathalyzing me anyway, and they just let me go. You know, go ahead and take care. So the ambulance got me into Faro Hospital. Honestly, probably the worst part of the experience, one of the worst experiences of my life. They're so short of doctors and nurses. They took me in and did an x-ray. I'm waiting for about an hour for the doctor to go back and say, look, I'm really sorry, it's bad news. And of course my heart sunk at that point in time. I thought I was in all sorts of difficulty. I kind of was. But he said you need surgery and you need it immediately. And we can't give it to you until next Friday. You risk doing permanent damage or maybe even losing your leg. So I'm like, okay, this isn't good. The lower part of my leg. So he asked if I had insurance, and I said, well, yes, I do. So by this time, by the time I'd gotten off the mountain and into emergency and to see the doctor and to get the x-ray, they gave me no food or drink in case I needed immediate surgery. They gave me no painkillers in case I needed anesthesia. And then they said they couldn't do it. By this time it's about 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock in the evening. I pull the insurance card out of my wallet and call the insurance company, and I get an answer machine. So I leave a message and they call back about an hour later and say, sorry, we're closed at 5 o'clock, but we'll send an ambulance in the morning. So they would go and pick me up and then bring me to a private hospital, basically. So I stayed in that little room, 6 beds in it, barely enough room for 6 beds in it, with some other people until about 11:30 that night. They gave me no food or drink, no painkillers, not even paracetamol. They're like, sorry, I can't give you anything without talking to the doctor. Well, where's the doctor? He's busy. And then I'd ask him again, and he was gone off call, and the next doctor would be on. And that kind of just carried on. So I got no painkillers whatsoever. It was starting to hurt now. My leg was starting to swell. It was all wrapped up and splintered, but just painful. Couldn't really move. I was getting quite distressed with it, I have to say. And what happened basically was when my foot hit the ground, it snapped outwards and twisted. So the bone just under my knee splintered into 7 pieces. One piece of that went down into the flesh of my leg, like a big wide splinter. Another big wide splinter went up and shaved the side off my femur, just above my knee. So that kind of bone knuckle that kind of sticks out, it shaved part of that off too, broke that off. So it was incredibly painful then at that point. But no painkillers, no food, no water, nothing. 11:30 they came and rolled me out. I asked them where I was going. They said, oh, we're going to move you for the night. They moved me down into the basement. There must have been 40, 50, 60 people down there in beds in various states of distress and mental state. There were drunk people. There was an old man dying beside me in the bed who was just moaning and groaning and sounded like kind of death rattles every now and again coming out of him, and then he'd gasp and he was back to moaning again. I don't think he could have lasted, to be honest. This bed, this is one of these dangerous ones where they come around. But it was just, so that was it, all night I stayed there. They gave me no breakfast the next morning, nothing. Ambulance turned up at 9 o'clock. Nurse came over and said, ambulance is here for you. And the guys who turned up, the guys in the ambulance, were just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I don't don't mind admitting that I actually cried in that ambulance on the way to the private hospital. It was just such a relief to get out. It was a meat market. It was absolutely horrendous. And I got to the private hospital, and they called in the knee specialist. Turns out he's one of the top guys in Europe. The consultant was phenomenal. He was on call. He was in the area. He came in, and he was just phenomenal. He said, "Look, I've seen it. You need surgery. It needs to be done immediately. We don't have the parts." He said, "A little bit like your motorcycle, we're going to have to order this in from Lisbon. It'll be here tomorrow. I'll be ready. You'll be ready. Get some rest." So they gave me painkillers, handed me a menu, and I had a 3-course meal sitting in the bed. I was just absolutely ridiculous. I remember I had some kind of salmon dish as a starter. It was phenomenal. They then gave me a spaghetti bolognese, which was just the state I was in and how hungry I was. It was probably the best spaghetti bolognese I'd ever had. And then a kind of a chocolate mousse dessert. This was 4 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. But that was it. They got the surgery done the next day, and I was out the day after that. And then it took me a year before I could walk again, and before I could get back on the bike. And even then, I rode very little. So I decided I was taking my old bike out a couple of times just before Christmas, towards the end of 2022 there, and I really enjoyed it. I really did. And I'd actually ordered this bike as a bit of an upgrade. I've been watching so many videos on YouTube, and I kind of started to remember just the love of biking, and it being good for your mental health. So like everybody else, I think I've kind of struggled over the last couple of years. I don't mind admitting, I always thought I had an ability to kind of bounce back from stuff, but I'd been through quite a bit. The crash was only one of them. And I kind of remember what biking does for you. You know, feeds the soul, really. So a big shout out to Sam Vincent and Ricardo Yeep, and also to the Nomad Sweden bunch of guys. Adam Riemann as well. I think just the people with that love of bikes kind of reignited it again in me. So I ordered this bike, I ordered all the parts, and then I decided I was going to build it myself because I'd never done anything like that before. And lo and behold, I got it done, and I'm now out and able to ride. So the fantastic thing is, I know what goes into putting this thing together, at least superficially. I won't be delving into the engine, which always helps. And now I can ride a bike that I've kind of lovingly put together, the way that I want it. And I can't tell you how much of a lift that has been mentally, to put it all together, to work on it and see the fruits of your labour. I kind of underestimated how good that could be. I was always kind of afraid of it, kind of paid someone else to do it. But to kind of see it come together how you want it. So now I'm just trying to find more and more time to get out and ride. Back to what I was talking about. I know that I need practice. I know that I used to be good riding on the road. So I need a bit more practice. And that's okay, because the fun is in the journey. So, anyway, that was the end of the run up to Kashoko. I'll leave you here for a bit. Find anything else interesting, back a bit, you know. I told the Zumo to take us for an interesting little jaunt. Thought I'd head over towards Alcutin, which is over on the coast of the Guadiana River, which separates Portugal from Spain. just on the east side over here. But these roads, I guess, is all I wanted to kind of bring you back to have a look at. Only because Portugal is absolutely crisscrossed with these roads. All of the surfaces, for the most part, are fantastic. There's a few in the high traffic areas that are not fantastic. But even up here in the mountains, you'll find the roads, even though they're not travelled particularly often or well, have got these well-traversed roads, and also these dirt roads everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So I stopped to get some fuel and to grab a quick energy drink just to kind of keep my focus where it needs to be. And then I told Zumo just to bring me over to the castle and bring me on some twisty roads, only so that I can find roads that I've never been on before. Because most of the time you ride these roads, you know the roads pretty well. You've got to get your loops and what have you. That one I was on earlier is part of my favourite loops on a bike. Kind of reminds me a little bit of one of the routes in Wales heading up the 470. But here, although it's a little chilly today, I don't often see clouds in the sky, I don't know if you can see those. Here you can kind of get out onto these little roads that crisscross the countryside and just find something new and interesting. I mean, I've never seen these kind of high meadows up here before. And it's beautiful here. It's a lot greener than you think, especially when it rains. And we have had a bit of rain, and Portugal has finally come out of drought, which has been nice. It's been dry and crazy for years. Look here, a little lake sitting over here. Just look how green it is. It's, you know, before I came here, I always thought it was kind of looked a bit like the Canary Islands, dusty and rocky and sandy, and it can be like that, to be fair. It certainly is like that during the summer. Everything goes a bit brown. But you get into winter and spring, and it's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. And the other thing I love about this is not just the new roads that you get to see and see the sights and what have you. You're right through these beautiful villages as well, where the people are just so friendly. You can stop and grab a coffee, have a chat with the locals. It helps you if you speak Portuguese. I'm not fluent, but I've got enough to kind of get by. What a great place! Just as a biking holiday or as a biking destination, you just can't go wrong. Large puddle of water. So I've never been up here before. I've no real idea where I am. But again, that's the beauty of taking the road less travelled. There was only a couple of people that I wanted to make mention of as well. One was Steve at a bike thing for all the kit, the Denali kit and what have you, and the advice and the guidance and the perseverance as I was asking silly questions and trying to get stuff done. Absolute legend. So if and when you want to buy stuff for your bike, a bike thing in the UK is phenomenal. They do global shipping as well, and they remove the VAT, so you pay the customs duty on the way in. Oh wow, just look at these roads, just look, ribbons through the countryside. It's just phenomenal. And when I stopped there for a drink, I was looking on YouTube. I saw a video from 0 mile ADV, and I'll link everyone I've mentioned below, because it's always good to get recommendations for other channels and people who make kind of decent content or do decent things. And one of the things he's talking about in his latest video is he's new to motorbikes and picked up a 1290 Super Adventure S as his first bike, and people are giving him grief for it. I just went and put a comment on his video while I was sitting there having my drink, a chocolate bar, and apparently he's been getting a bit of grief that he shouldn't buy such a big bike for his first bike. And the thing to it is this, for me, I wouldn't advise everybody to get a 1290 Super Adventure as their first bike. But if somebody demonstrates the maturity and the humility to recognize that they are new to this and they are learning and they're going to continue learning, is it an option for them? Absolutely it is. And I've just had this conversation with my nephew Adam, who will eventually watch this when he stops doing his Modern Warfare raids and kicking ass. But he's just bought himself a bike, having done his basic training, and he's got his eye on the next bikes that are coming up. And yes, he's got a sports bike thing at the moment. He will eventually grow out of that, I have no doubt. And he'll buy an old man bike, like one of these, or so he thinks. But when people are giving advice, they give you their best version of advice that they've heard, and it is generalized. And you have to remember George Carlin, right? Think of the most stupid person, and realize that half of the world is more stupid than that. Advice is generalized, and so would you generally advise a 1301cc bike for a newbie? No, generally not. But people like this Zero ADV guy, sorry dude, I don't know your name yet. People like my nephew Adam, they want to learn, and they know that they have to learn. It's a little bit like I was talking about earlier in this video. Even with all the training that I've had, I still know that I have to practice and I have to learn, and I've got to do drills, and I've got to ride the miles to bed the muscle memory back in again. Because if you don't do that, you're just asking for trouble. And so, would I advise that it's an option to buy one of these bikes for a newbie? Well, conditionally, yes. If you show that maturity and humility and don't think that you're invincible. Let's face it, us guys all think we're invincible until we hit a certain age, and we think nothing can hurt us, and that would never happen to us, right? Which is clearly bullshit. But there's something evolutionary in our brains that kind of has us thinking that. But this stuff is all about managed risk and mitigating risk. And the way that I would suggest that a newbie who actually does have the maturity and the humility to recognize that they need to learn more is to take those courses and to practice. And these bikes will only go as fast as you let them. They'll only go as fast as you turn that throttle. So you've got to demonstrate the control. And also, let's face it, the truth of it is, you kind of find a straight road opening up in front of you. Sometimes you're going to want to rip that throttle open and ride a bit quicker and get a bit of that thrill, and everybody does it, and it's natural and it's normal. As long as you're not doing that in the bends, thinking that you've got full control when maybe you don't, you'll be good. So anyway, good luck to all our newbies joining the big adventure bike crowd too. Because this stuff, waving to people on the road, is phenomenal. That's what it's all about. Community, looking out for each other. So with that, ride safe. Keep it rubber side down, shiny side up, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao, ciao.